Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.
Welcome to Sports Management Podcast, where you will hear interesting sports management professionals share their stories, experiences, and passion for the sports management industry. I am your host, Marcus Philipsson. Welcome to episode 190 of Sports Management Podcast. Today's guest is Joe Barth, also known as the Hit Doctor. He's an Hall of Fame baseball coach and hitting expert with over 50 years of experience. And we spoke about the commercialization of youth sports, coaching kids, dealing with parents, common traits for elite athletes, the mental game of baseball, coaching over 300 MLB players, at what age you should get a coach, and much more. Joe Barth, welcome to Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on the show. You are the Hit Doctor, Hall of Fame baseball coach and hitting expert. So you have coached 300 MLB players and led a lot of them to the MLB. You know, your coaching career, how did that start?
I grew up in a baseball family. My father was a famous coach. And everybody in my family was baseball nuts and coaches. So it's a family thing.
You have done this for a long time and you have been, focusing. One of the emphasis has been to, finding scholarships for this, for young athletes.
That's a big part of it. Yep.
Yeah. So that's obviously a big thing in the US, to finding the right coach. How early do you need to find a coach, if you want to make it all the way in MLB?
That's a good question. I mean, we have kids that start as early as 8 or 9. Problem in the United States is that a lot of kids quit playing baseball because of T-ball. It's so boring and they hate it and it ruins their swings and they stand out in the cold. So they quit playing before they're 8 or 9. And I recommend the kids really shouldn't. You can't play real baseball till you're 8 or 9 anyway. And in the old days, Dad would take you out to prepare you to play Little League at 8 or 9. And nowadays, I don't know if the parents have time to prepare him, but I'd say if he wants to play, let him show you some interest in that, and then maybe take him to someone that can get him started on the right foot. But I wouldn't push them out there till they're 8 or 9 because the kids just don't, there's not enough action in T-ball. So unless they can play real baseball, I wouldn't start them. The big thing, start them off on the right foot.
No, that makes sense. And I know that you emphasize a lot individualized training and not doing the, one size fits all. How do you do that to individualize your training?
Again, I've worked with an outrageous number of kids, and I've had thousands and thousands of kids get scholarships to college and play baseball. I've had over close to 2,000 professional players, but I've had way more than that get college scholarships. But my goal was to just have the kids to have a lot of fun, and the fun for baseball for me was always hitting. Now I never was a pitcher, but if the kid doesn't hit, he's not going to have a whole lot of fun. So we try to teach him, and if you're going to teach him the right way, I'm trying to teach him what's being taught at the major league level now, which is way different than when I was young, when dinosaurs roamed. And it's not being taught in the United States. It's being taught elsewhere, but it's not being taught very much in the United States at the grassroots level. It's only being taught at the professional level or the college level. So we start the young kids off really depending on how young they are, a lot of times it's training the dads how to work with them. And we teach them major league techniques, and my kids stand out right away because they know what they're doing and they didn't play T-ball. And again, I try to train the parents because every guy I've ever had that made the major league had a dominant parent, a brother, or coach that took them under their wing and protected them. And a lot of my kids, like Mr. Griffey and Mr. Trout, they were great ball players. But like me, most guys that played at the big league level or at a high, I didn't play at the big league level, but most guys who were very good players are tougher on their kids than they realize. And when the kids are 12 or 13, a lot of times it's when they bring them to me because the wife realizes, Dad can't control himself. So that's a big part of it, because you have to build confidence to be a great ball player, to be great anything. You have to believe in yourself. And my expectation levels for my son were probably to make the big leagues and be way better than me. And I was a college player, and I mean, by the time he was 5 years old, he could really hit. And he played t-ball. And next thing you know, he tells me I'm going to play soccer from now on. It's more exciting, which was terrible. He ended up being a high school All-American in baseball, but got a baseball scholarship. But the thing is, I was too tough on him, and most guys are. And you got to build confidence. I don't let my parents say anything to him during the game unless the phrase begins with the word good. And a lot of people are shocked the first time uh, they yell at their kid, get your elbow up, or other such thing during the game. Mm, my assistants blow a whistle and they're vanquished to center field for the rest of the game. Next time they try to coach the kid during the game, they're ousted. And everybody knows that we've been doing it for 50 years. But our record of player development is good. And the kids have to want to play. And the thing is, if they're getting yelled at all the time, I'll go play soccer, or I'll play. Like, they got so many options nowadays. It's important that you work on one thing at a time, not 10. And hitting is probably the most difficult thing in any sport. And so what happens is, like Ken Griffey Jr., he said he takes 2 or 3 perfect swings a year in a game, right? That's one of the greatest hitters that ever lived. So if he only gets 2 perfect swings, I could find fault with every other person in the world swing almost every time. I could find 10 things. But if you're not saying the word good, the kid pretty soon decides he's not good and he don't want to play this. People wouldn't climb mountains if they didn't think they could do it. People won't practice hitting all the time unless they think they can do it. And so every sentence got to be, even when they swing and miss, every sentence got to become good. Hey, you missed it, but man, you swung hard. Now keep your head still, or do this, do that. So you got to use the Oreo effect, and I think that holds true with everything. You know, I try to encourage I got 2 granddaughters, and they're very gifted in a number of areas, but they're not real big into the softball. But I don't care what it is. You know, every time I watch them do something or play, it's like, good, good game. It's got to begin with that, because they got to think they're good even before they get good. And, I think confidence is what makes people usually successful in anything.
Yeah, for sure. And I know that you work a lot with the mental game of baseball. So except for the confidence, is there any other pieces to the mental game?
Well, I think teaching them breathing techniques that helps them to relax. So when something goes wrong, here's what you do. And we give them a routine. It may be a pitcher, picks up the rosin bag, throws it down, looks at the flagpole, takes a deep breath, and pictures this next pitch going where he wants to. But you have to give him a plan B if the first one didn't work. And in baseball, there's always the next pitch or the next at bat or the next game, right? So we got to sandwich around when you tell him how he failed. Before you do, you just tell him what you did good. You might have swung up too much, but you were really aggressive. That was great. I'm proud of the way you attacked the ball. So you're giving him 2 or 3 positives to the one thing. He heard that you said he uppercut too much or whatever. He heard that. That registered. So now, because you're proud of him and he's good, let's go home and work on that high pitch so I don't uppercut. Oh, okay. And that's what happens when you treat them like they're good to begin with, and they're going to be good. They ask you to practice. Throw me some high pitches or whatever. And it's all in the mental attitude. Like I said, if I knew I was going to fail severely at something, I wouldn't do it. I have enough time. I've only have a couple things I'm really good at. Baseball happens to be one of them, but that's why I do it. I'll do it 24/7 if I could stay awake. All right. I had great coaches when I was a little kid. I don't even know how much they knew in X's and O's. My father knew a lot, but my father was too tough. They kept telling me how great I was. So I kept telling my father to throw to me and keep your mouth shut. And that's what he did. But I thought I was good because of my coaches. And so that's an important thing. And I think it's important in all aspects. You know, our philosophy for business is ready, fire, aim, and you'll learn as you go. It's the same in any walk of life. 3% of the people make 97% of the money in almost every profession. And those guys that are really, really great at something, they never want to retire because it's so much fun. And that's what we have to be careful in the United States and America right now. Youth sports have become very commercialized and very expensive. And the win at all cost mentality is important for a lot of these travel clubs. And that is not good for producing baseball players. You know, me and my brothers were all pretty good players and got a lot of recognition. But the key was we didn't play for scholarships. We didn't play for money. We played it because it was fun and we were good at it. At least we thought we were good at it. And that took us pretty far. And I don't want to see the kids not have fun doing it.
No, the fun aspect, that's why if you don't have fun, as you said, then you quit early and you go to soccer or, as you mentioned in the beginning.
Oh, they got plenty of things to do. That's one thing.
Exactly.
A lot of the things that they're doing may not be what the parents want them to do in the long run, which is sit on the phone all day or play Nintendo all day or stay on the cell phone. But in other words, if they're not enjoying what they're doing, they'll find something else. And so that's why a lot of sports in the United States right now, they're losing a lot of the athletes early on. And then you say, why does this high school have a great team in one thing and not in another? It's the feeder program is the kids are enjoying playing for this tribal soccer or football team, but they're not enjoying this other sport. And that's a big part of it.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned the 3%. You've helped nearly 300 players make it to the MLB. What are some common traits or habits that you see among these elite athletes?
They like practice. Practice was fun for them. And they like to help other kids, whether they were their same age or a little younger than them. They like repeating the instruction maybe that I gave them, repeating it to younger boys. And the younger kids admired them and looked up to them, right? Because maybe they were the best player on the team or the best player in the organization and they knew it. At an early age, I got a couple now, like they're 11 years old, 10 years old, but when the little kids are there, they take pride in helping them. And this is what Mr. B wants you to do. And boy, you're better than I was when I was 8 already. And it's like, I don't know that the kids necessarily are, but the kids have so much pride in the kids that they help. And that's important. And that's something that I don't know. Like I think sometimes, and don't get me wrong, I had travel baseball teams and I had some of these problems with my parents as well. But it's about educating the parents to understand that these 10 or 12 kids are your teammates and your friends. And the only guy that can help your son become a better catcher is probably the other catcher. And for you to badmouth that other catcher to make your son look better, that's not a good thing. And now you're screaming at your son because he doesn't perform and you're worried he's going to lose his spot. I want those two guys to be thick as thieves and work together. You want to go to Stanford, I want to go to Miami. The only difference, one of us can read and write, but I won't get into that. But the point is, they help each other. It becomes a team and they pull for everybody. And it's like, it isn't win at all costs. It's have fun at all costs, play the best you can, and then critique how you did. If there's some things that are broke, let's try to fix them. But we're going to do better the next time. And that's what it's all about, you know? And that's any sport.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, now we have talked a lot about the parents and how much, I mean, I guess that they can make or break it for a kid as well if they, push too much or make the wrong decisions for their child. So how much of your, coaching and guidance is also towards the parents?
Let's put it this way, way more than when I started. I've been coaching for 50 years now. And I don't know, there was a time when I had a camp. I did 24 kids at a time I had 3 assistants. And I'd run these camps and I'd have 23 or 24 parents for if I had a 24-man camp. I have 24 little guys. Maybe one parent would drop their kid off. The other 23 stayed there and watched. When I sold my business in 2017, I was getting one parent at the camp and 23 of them dropped them off and left. So guess who ended up being the best player most of the time? The one whose father was there. And if it wasn't a father, it was a big brother. And he worked with the kid and helped guide him because they are children. And as much as a lot of the kids look up to us as coaches, we have a lot of power. Dad or mom, depending who's the dominant parent in their activity, they look up to them more than anybody. And if they say you're getting piped, you should be playing shortstop, not second base. You should be batting third, not sixth. They believe them over any coach. And so I'm telling you that the 300 kids I had parents, and I don't know how many kids I had that got scholarships, but it's an outrageous number. I've had close to 50,000 kids play college baseball. And a lot of them, most of them got some money because they were good enough to get a scholarship. But every one of them had a dominant parent or a big brother that was the person they ran everything by and who made sure he got where he had to go, did what he had to do, etc. Every one of my kids kept a book of what he did on a daily basis. Now I had it made into an app. But guys like Mike Trout, he knows what he has to do in the middle of December, in the middle of January, etc., because he could look back in his book and tell you what he's been doing, what made him who he is. Each kid and each student and each person that graduates from high school or college is ultimately going to build his own system for greatness in something. That's our hope. And the person that he looks to most for guidance is his parent who shows the most interest in that particular field. Like my wife's an academician nut. She worries about my kids being able to get a job and speak English and count to 10, right? Where I was probably too much of sports early on, but what she did with my children was made them believe they could do anything. And so I have, kids that got great honors in school and they did good in whatever they did, but it's building confidence. And every day the kids should want to do something. I'm in the baseball, somebody else is into soccer, art, music, but they gotta like something. And if they don't, it's depressing. It means people are telling them they can't do everything. They say there's 7 types of intelligence. I have guys that graduated from high school that were some of the worst students in class, and they were always made fun of and the class clown. Well, they have big companies now, and everybody works for them because they were good at something, and they hired half my class. You know what I mean? And God bless them that they had enough confidence to build that big insurance business or real estate business. But yeah, every sentence. And I'm big on psycho-cybernetics, but the Russians don't believe in a whole lot of making you do visualizations or all that kind of stuff. They feel that the reps are what make you good, and you're doing the reps because you picture yourself being an Olympian or a superstar, and they're looking towards. They listen to the coach, but they're turning to their parents to see how they really did because they believe them. And if they have that parent who shows that kind of interest in them and is always positive, they will continue to pursue what they like. And I don't think you should ever encourage someone to quit something they really like or go to something because I think you should do it. The kids will develop a taste for something, and that's encourage it. Let them pursue that. You don't have to do one thing all year round either. You can do whatever you want and just do the best you can. And I'm in your corner. And every time they come off the field, whether they win, lose, or draw, hey, good job. And I really like the way you hustle, you know? So there's always a positive you can find if you look for it.
Definitely. So you mentioned visualization. You mentioned that you have made an app that you're using in your training now. I guess this was not something you worked a lot with 50 years ago when you started. So how have, your coaching style changed over the years?
Well, it's put this way, completely changed. And I was a catcher, so the last thing I spent a lot of time on was catching. I studied pitching, everything, because I wanted to be successful. I wanted to be the best at every aspect of baseball. The last thing I started, I watched hours and hours of videos, books, and I went and apprenticed for a lot of pro people and college people for free to learn from them, pick their brain. The last thing I thought about, I guess I was 5 or 10 years into coaching. It's like, I know catching. I was a catcher. I caught 22 years, right? When I looked at what they're teaching that at that time was totally different than what I was taught. And what they're doing today in the major league is 100% different than what I was taught. Every aspect of catching, framing, blocking, throwing is totally different. So if you don't keep up with the times, you fall behind. You cannot be a great player doing 1950s stuff. And that's sort of what America's doing right now because Major League Baseball has spent billions of dollars educating people all over the world how to play baseball. But they haven't been to my local Little League since I was 11 and I'm 76. And they used to send the people to train the trainers and train the Little League coaches. We're not getting that in America. And so a lot of people are teaching baseball in the United States circa 1948. And guess what? These modern day players are bigger, stronger, faster, much hungrier than a lot of the American kids. They want it really bad and they're working really hard and they know so much about baseball now. And I assume it's in every sport. Baseball was my sport. I played a little basketball in college and baseball, but uh, base, baseball has become really, really good all over the world. And I think baseball is really down in the United States. And I don't think it's because people don't want to be good at it. I just think the kids have more options. And if they got somebody screaming at them at 5 and 6 years old about a T-ball game or 6, 7, and 8 year old at travel ball, I'm going to go do something I'm good at. Well, the great part about soccer, because I had a daughter, she played soccer when she was 6. And the coach told her she was great. So she played it when she was 7 and 8, but she never moved maybe a foot in 3 years. 15 games a year, 45 games, she moved a foot. She didn't move. I have a movie, a 2-hour movie of her standing still, and you would have thought it was a still picture, except her hair was blowing in the wind. Okay. But the coach was so good, she thought she was a soccer player for a long time. Right. At the same time, I've seen great players. Their father tells them, I'm not going to name any names, hit 3 homers in the game, and that 4th time he struck out, father screamed at him the whole way home. Right? He was a great player. He actually is making some pretty good money right now too. But the kids have to enjoy what they're doing. And I honestly believe this. I believe you can make a really, really good living if you really like something, because you got a shot to be one of the 3%ers that lives, eats, and sleeps what they do because it's so much fun. The money will come. It's like a magnet. You know what I mean? Money comes to those that love something and keep getting better at it and keep up to it. So, and I know I'm probably preaching to the choir, but it's the truth.
Yeah, definitely. On the technological side, like obviously there's been a tech revolution for the last, I don't know, 20 years, let's say, maybe a little bit more. So
Yeah.
how much has that affected baseball and your coaching?
Well, it's affected baseball, but what happens is there's a lot of things that people that didn't play didn't know. And there's a lot of things that people who played for years did realize that the mathematicians or statisticians came in from MIT and Harvard and so forth, and they could tell you statistically what happens. And now, thank God, there's been a meeting of the minds, and they're starting to realize, right, that information is really important, right? I was fortunate enough to have Mr. Trout. Mike's dad was a great ball player. He worked for me for quite a while as a coach, one of the greatest coaches I ever had. Always easygoing guy. Okay. But Michael was a child prodigy. He was ridiculously good from day one. And his success is what drove him. He hit so good he wanted to learn more and hit more and hit more. And the biggest thing was Jeff always encouraged him to do whatever he wanted to do. And he was the best football player. He was the best basketball player, but he always gravitated back to baseball and wanted to hit. And it was dead of winter and it's in the snow. I think that kind of love for something can only permeate the kid's personality if the parents are encouraging him, and he gets reinforced all the time how good he's doing and how much fun it is to watch him. You know what? Sometimes the kids try gymnastics, and at the beginning they're not that good, but it's like I have fun just watching you try, and the next thing you know, they're getting good at it. You know, you can make yourself pretty good. Obviously, you can't make everybody Barry Bonds. You can't make everybody Mike Trout. But the information, I want to give you an example of the information. There's certain things you can do to build yourself up to get more bat speed. And the old timers told you what Barry Bonds' bat speed was and Mike Trout's bat speed was, right? The guys from MIT said, well, common sense says the more your bat speed is, the better you are. It's the best hitter in the major leagues the last 3 years was Arise, and he had the slowest bat speed in all of the Major League Baseball. So there has to be a meeting of the minds. You can't make Arise Barry Bonds. You can't make Arise Mike Trout or Aaron Judge. Physically, it's impossible for him to be that. And right now, we're trying to make everybody swing 100 miles an hour, and it's not necessary. Arise is the best hitter average-wise in Major League Baseball. He swings 67 miles an hour, right? I got 14-year-olds that swing faster than that, all right? So there must be more to it. If you're not big enough to swing 100, you got to square the ball, keep your head still. Your technique has to be good. So instead of wasting your time trying to build yourself up, you're a little guy, practice putting the ball in the barrel. You know, practice what you're good at. And that applies to pretty much everything, right? There's people that won gold medals this year that are only good at certain dives or certain track and field events. They don't have to be good at everything unless they're in the decathlon. But do what you like and find something that you're going to be good at. And everybody has been given the gift of some talent in one of those 7 intelligences. You know what I mean? I have a guy who can take a car apart and fill your lawn with all the parts and put it back together by tomorrow. All right. Me, if it's not covered by my credit card, I can't fix it. I can't do anything with it. You know, everybody has their gifts. And I think as a parent, your responsibility is to recognize what your son or daughter's gifts are and encourage them to pursue whatever fun things they can do with the gifts they have. And even if they're bad at something, if they like it, let them do it. You know, you have to be baseball 24 hours a day, 24/7. So I'm not into that. Me and my brothers all played basketball. I played a little bit of football. I ran cross country 1 year, but I did what I felt like doing. I had fun. And I always went home and picked up my bat, but nobody ever told me to do it. You know, it's just one of those things, you know?
No, you did it because you love it. And I know like a lot of professional athletes were doing several sports growing up and they specialize later.
Yeah, exactly. The Soviets are big on that. They specialize earlier than most people, but they watch the kids from the 4 to 8 years old to see what they're gifted at. And then they encourage them to get into something they're pretty decent at. And the kids are always willing to do that if they're pretty decent at something. You know what I mean? But getting back to the Soviets, that they said that you could do your visualization while you're enjoying practice and you're doing the reps and you're visualizing the good ones. And the more reps you do, the more good ones you get and the more people compliment you. And I have a friend who actually ran the Soviet Olympic program until he died. But he said that Olga Korbut always pictured herself being the best in the world from the time she was real tiny, real young. And her visualization came during the jumps and the things. And she fell down a lot, just like everybody else. But when she didn't fall down and she stuck the landing, she acted like she just won the gold medal. She visualized it herself. You know, what I mean, and that's important. But I think that happens every time you have a successful event and a competition. You actually visualize it, and we want your parents to encourage you to draw back on that. Don't dwell on the strikeouts. Dwell on what the success is.
Completely agree. So if we look ahead in the future of baseball, how do you see the game evolving?
Well, I think you're going to see it becoming more and more of an international sport. I think you're going to see teams in other countries in the major leagues. And I also think you're going to see players coming from right now, they're coming from quite a few countries, but you're going to see a lot more. I have one of my proteges, one of my students, he's now teaching baseball in 5 continents. He coached Australian baseball. He played professional baseball in Australia, became the father in baseball in Australia. But now he's going to Ethiopia, Ghana, places like that, and he's bringing baseball through Europe, Spain, and baseball's catching on everywhere. And obviously, the money is ridiculous. But besides that, these people are having a lot of fun, and everybody's excited just because they're playing. And so it's like America was in the 1920s. It's catching on really fast, and the kids are getting really good because they're playing day and night without any expectations. And they find out that they're pretty good. And, you know, kids will do what they're good at, right? The thing is, some of the greatest players in the world weren't that good, even in high school, right? Maybe they thought they were better than they were. They got cut from the high school team because they weren't that good, but they enjoyed playing. Somebody was encouraging them to play. That's our mission as a parent, I think, is to raise our kids, teach them what you can, and help them to accomplish whatever they want.
So on that topic, what would be your best advice for someone who wants to start playing baseball?
Practice throwing stuff and basically hitting stuff. And I don't mean hit your next door neighbor. I mean, most athletes, they have 13 body preferences. So if I throw a rock or a pebble, right, I will throw it from the best angle of my arm, from my body in my arm. And I will throw it in a way that my body's telling me to do. If I were to throw that rock to a hitter who's standing there with a stick, he will swing based on what his body tells him to do. So he will be throwing and swinging naturally close to what his 13 body preferences tell him to do. Whereas if they go to T-ball or Little League and somebody's screaming at him to do this or do that, they're telling that little kid's body how to play baseball. And it's wrong for almost everyone out of a million. Okay? The combination of 13 body preferences, multiply that out, the chances of you hitting on this boy's what his body would tell him to do naturally. And I've spoken that this is why you got to let kids play in the sandlot and have fun without any coaching for a little while. That's why we don't start till 8 or 9. By the time the kid's 10 years old, they come to me. He's already standing the way wants to stand, swinging the way he wants to swing. And all I have to do is tweak him a little bit because I identify major leaguers that move like him, swing like him. And here's how you eliminate a few of your outs. And voila, all of a sudden he's hitting natural. And everybody says, oh, he's a natural hitter. Now, the same kid before I saw him, right, they would have changed him, you know. But you could turn the TV on and watch the best players in the world. There's only 600 of them. And you cannot find one that looks like another one. They're all completely different. And I think that the younger you start training people, the less natural they'll do it, right? So we encourage the kids to play sandlot. Dads go out and play catch, throw balls, see how he hits them, see what he hits them with. You know, who knows? Maybe this is a cross player. But the bottom line is let him do what he feels like doing. And it might take you 5 years to watch him to realize that this is the way his body wants to move. This is the way he wants to run. This is the way he wants to throw. This is the way he wants to hit. Now maybe you take up somebody like me to polish the apple, but that's all I'm doing. I'm seeing what someone does natural and trying to get them back to that because a lot of them they come to me, you know, they're totally contorted into other positions to please a coach who believes that everybody should hit like this guy, and it's like, you know, it's like a suit that doesn't fit. I mean, it doesn't fit. So I got the one app where it applies to everything, any sport, school, whatever. You know, you set your long-term, short-term goals, people you got to work with, and what you do on a daily basis. Human beings are the process of what they do on a daily basis, right? There's no camp where you can go for one day, learn how to be a superstar. There's no school you can go for a week or a month. It's what you are doing year in and year out, day in and day out. And right now, the kids are involved in Nintendo and talking on the cell phones and social media, sometimes at the expense of anything else. And I said to my granddaughter, why don't we go to the movies? Why don't we? Well, I got to talk to Sally, Mary, Harry, blah, blah, blah. I got to do this, that, the other thing. It's like all those things are not as important as you doing your homework or you studying for your tests or you maybe getting out going to the movies or something. You know what I mean? Everything is equal. No, eventually let them try what they want to do and pay attention to what they are good at and what they'll like what they're good at, and don't push them into anything else. You know what I mean? Let them do what they want to do and back them 100% and tell them they're good at it. That it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you don't think you're good enough to play for me, you're not. If you think you're good enough to play for me and you're not yet, you will be. So I'm going to do everything I can to keep you around until you are good because you already think you're good. And, you know, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Whatever you think you are, that's what you will be.
I like that. It's back to the confidence piece that we talked about earlier also.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I sometimes, you know, if I was a principal, I would be a lousy principal because if they showed up, there would be no F's or D's, right? I find something they're good at and they get an A in it. You know what I mean? I don't want my children or grandchildren comparing themselves to anybody else, right? You want to do this? Let's do it. Have fun.
I love that. Is there something I haven't asked you so far that you want to cover before we sign off here?
No, I think you hit all the major points. I'm telling you, 100% of my guys that made it had a parent they're really tight with, right? And who encouraged them all the time and saw to it that they got the right places. And most of them were not too tough on their kids. You know, that's sometimes, when you played something, you tend to be too tough on your son. But I learned a long time ago to back off and let your son decide what he's good at.
I like that. Joe Barth, thank you so much for taking the time to be on Sports Management Podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Thank you for listening to the Sports Management Podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. Also, feel free to leave a comment about what you thought about this episode. If you want to get in contact with me, send an email to sportsmpodcast@gmail.com or hit me up on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @sportsmpodcast.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.